batwing sleeves. Batwing sleeves that are bat wings. It's time. I belong to a demographic that is perhaps stereotypically known for loving things like autumn and Halloween and anything pumpkin spice. Yeah, not so much for me. I've just never been super into any of that. I mean, autumn is nice. Any temperate time of year is always nice and preferable to me, but I'd rank it second. I'm really more of a spring person myself. I like the coming of life and the blooming of flowers and everything turning green and the weather getting slightly warmer but not scorchingly hot yet. As far as pumpkin spice goes, I've just never gotten what the hype is. If we're going with favorite autumny flavors, I'm an apple cider person all the way. And Halloween. Oh, Halloween. So it's a bit odd because we grew up playing dress up all the time, or old-fashioned is what we would call it. My oldest sister Carrie is an incredible seamstress and has been since she was quite young, and she would make us costumes, like historical themed costumes from all different time periods, and we would dress up and play things like Little Women and Pride and Prejudice and Titanic, which I find interesting because none of us were allowed to watch Titanic. And then my next oldest sister really got into photography, and so we started dressing up and making little backdrops and everything and doing glamour shoots. And of course, all of us also danced, so half of our garage was like crammed full of ballet costumes as well. Dressing up was just a really normal part of my childhood. Halloween, on the other hand, was off limits. My mom was extremely against anything that could be slightly connected with the devil, and let's not even get into that rabbit trail right now, so we never celebrated Halloween. Instead, we did Fall Festival at our church, where families would make like homemade fair-style games, and we would dress up and go play the games and get candy. But there were no scary or spooky costumes allowed, and you know, it's in a church, so the devil wasn't invited, and we called it Fall Festival instead of Halloween. Anyway, all that to say, maybe it just comes from my upbringing, but I really have no interest in Halloween to this day. I think in my adult life, I've only ever dressed up for Halloween or gone to like a Halloween party maybe like twice. When was the last time? Oh god, it would have been on the cruise ship. Ooh, now we're gonna do side story. Themed parties are huge for crew on the cruise ships, especially for holidays, and like most people did not care and would not dress up for themed parties, but Halloween was a different story. Everyone dressed up for that. It was a huge party. I was not even planning to go because not a party person. But like on the day, somebody convinced me that I should show my face there. And you know, you can't just run out to Goodwill to make a costume because we were in the middle of the ocean. So my friend Kiki gave me one of his bodysuits, and then I put my hair up into like little buns to look like cat ears, and I slapped a bunch of makeup on my face, and I went as Catwoman. It was pretty comfortable if I recall correctly, except for the makeup thing. Tons of makeup on your face at a sweaty party. Ugh. Was not fun. Fun little side fact, that is indeed my now husband Matt. We were not dating at the time. So yeah, that was the last time that I dressed up for Halloween, and that was like 5 years ago? 6 years ago? Oh my god. It's so weird because that simultaneously feels like it was just yesterday and also like it was an entirely different lifetime that I only remember in like a dream-like way. Cruise ship time is weird. I did have a point when I started all this rambling, so let's get to that now. I'm gonna make a Halloween costume dress thing. Despite my lack of interest in Halloween, I did have an idea for a dress that is very Halloween-y, so we're gonna do it. I'm gonna make it. We're gonna make a Halloween themed dress. I don't really know if you could call it a costume because it's not like trying to be anyone. The idea was of course birthed during my dolman sleeve project when I thought, hey, if it's called a batwing sleeve and it looks like a batwing, then why not actually make it a batwing? And then, you know, I just like to be extra and I love evening gowns, so I thought, why not make it a batwing evening gown Halloween dress? Let me just show you what my idea is. So for starters, I was just thinking, what would happen if you made a dolman sleeve that actually looked like a bat wing on the bottom. It was actually long after I had this idea, but literally like 24 hours ago, when I saw this picture on Instagram and I was like, that's it, that's the dress, but batified. These like extreme batwing sleeves that reach all the way down to the hips are perfect. I need something pretty extreme if I'm gonna be able to get that batwing shape into them. Now you can sort of see it on this dress, and I'm probably gonna have to do this on mine as well. In order to make it long sleeved, there's actually an extra sleeve that's added on. I might even try to make mine like ruched a little. And then I really like where this dress ends, kind of at the ankle, not because I want mine to end right there, but I think that I can then add on a ruffle on the bottom that I'm hoping to stiffen with either horsehair or interfacing or anything, because oh yeah, this whole dress is gonna be made out of knit, so that it has like a dramatic sort of mermaidy, almost like Morticia Addams sort of look to it. So that's the main part of this project. There's kind of a whole second part. This was a totally different idea I had a while ago that was not related to this whatsoever, but then I realized the two would actually mesh really well into one dress. I've been thinking a lot about making a backless evening gown and then using some needle lace and embroidery techniques in that backless space to create a design, something probably either abstract or like leaf inspired. But then I saw this dress on Instagram, which is like a vintage 1960s look, I think, with like this spider web backless design, and I was like, oh my god, you could just do a spider web. I don't know if this is gonna work because backless dresses and dolman sleeves don't necessarily blend super well. So I know how I could create the base of the spider web itself, and I think I could make that pretty sturdy as long as I put like bias tape along the edge, something non-stretchy to really solidify that knit so that it's not pulling too much. What I'm not sure about is how I would actually create the spider webbing itself. I'm pretty sure I can do it using some needle lace and embroidery techniques, but it's one of those things that I would just have to figure out in the moment. I also don't think embroidery thread is really thick enough for this whole thing. Maybe for the webbing around, but I think I'm gonna need some sort of actual thicker cord to form the base of this, just so that it's really sturdy and really strong and a little bit thicker, because embroidery floss, even if you use all 6 strands, is pretty darn small. So the first thing that I've got to do here is go buy some stuff. I do already have the black fabric I want to use for this. I found it a while ago at Remainders for $2 a yard. And I love it. I love the texture that it has. Let me just go get it and show it to you. Here it is. Oh my god. I got quite a lot of it. I think I got everything that was left. So it is a very stretchy knit. Whee! Ooh, look, when you stretch it out, it's see-through. That's fun. And it's got this really beautiful kind of texture to it, which really gives it a sheen, and I thought was super fun for this kind of evening gown look. I do, however, need like all of the notions and other supplies, including black thread, because I'm out of black thread. It's gonna require a trip to Joann, which is fine. I'm already going out today anyway. Rather than starting by making this dress with this fabric, even though it was cheap, like I don't want to mess it up because I just really like it for this project. So I'm actually gonna make a mock-up. What? Kind of. I'm basically just gonna grab some knit that has a similar stretchiness from my stash and then do the basic structure of the dress. I probably won't even add the long sleeves to it, although I might do that. We'll see. So I'll get an idea of the basic measurements and how it fits, and if it works well, then I'll just have a second more wearable, practical dress out of this project. So I guess let's get Halloween-y or whatever. I got the goods. Let's make some stuff. But tomorrow. So first things I've learned from the mock-up is that I'm making the neckline too big, which I always do with boat necks somehow. The final dress, I'm not gonna make this long, and this one I'm gonna hem up as well, because right now it's really long, but it's very much like a little penguin dress. You can't take too big of steps. The wings. This isn't bad. If I can't figure out something different, I think this kind of shape will work. What I'd prefer though is for the wings to actually start from the wrist. So the question is just, how would I do that? I think I'd have to add a piece on the sleeve itself coming down like this to then lead into these. And I think that would help the whole thing have more of a wing shape because it wouldn't be sloping so much upward. It would have more of the outward slope. Finally, it's giving me the impression from this that I could do the backless dress. Like, as long as there is something here that is holding those edges together so that the whole thing doesn't just fall off, I don't see why it wouldn't work. So I think what I'm going to do is cut out the black dress just like this with the back intact. Once I get it on, once I know that the wings are working and everything, I can go and cut out the extra back part and try to figure out that whole thing. Yeah, let me just penguin away here. Oh, what a big boy. Okay, so here is the finished mock-up dress. It reminds me of this 1960s pattern I found when I was researching dolmens. A little bit silly, a little bit ridiculous, extremely comfortable. So the last thing that I really had to figure out was the adjustment of the bat wing shape itself. So I made a tester sleeve, which is a complete mess, but again, showed me what I need to know, mostly. So you can kind of see here, this is the added on sleeve part with a little batwing flap attached to it, and then this is the actual dolman with the flap as part of the actual shape. How I was going to attach them so that this is a hole and this is not was my main question. I am going to lose the ruching in the sleeves because I had no idea how to both ruche or gather the seam while also adding the flap in it that is not ruched. Ultimately, I decided it's unnecessary. Why put extra fabric on there, particularly because I'm going to be lining the sleeves on the actual black dress. So you already have 2 layers of fabric. I don't see the point of putting a bunch of extra fabric on there as well. Oh yeah, I think I'm feeling done for today. I've done a lot of figuring stuff out. So tomorrow I'm going to start on the real dress. Cutting out this dress was like descending into a rabbit hole of growing confusion. Started out simple enough. I made the neckline 8 inches instead of 12 just to be massively safe. Added an extra 4 inches onto the armhole, which will feed into the wing flap I'm gonna put on the end of the sleeves. Created those bat wing style curves, all good stuff. Then I started thinking about the ruffle on the bottom, the backlessness of it all, and the possibility of facings. This led me to a segment I like to call Charlie Googles and watches tutorials while forgetting she's still filming herself. Such good content. I did learn a few things already though. I'm gonna stay stitch like a professional. Number 1, you should stay stitch your cutout fabric if you want to be careful. Number 2, understitching. Like, yeah, that's it. I just learned what understitching is. And number 3, the difference in look between a gathered rectangular ruffle and a circular ruffle, which is apparently called a flounce. It took some brain-crushing math, but I finally figured out how to fit a flounce with sufficient flounciness on my remaining fabric, I think. I didn't cut it out because it felt too dangerous at the moment, and I don't trust myself. Instead, I'm going to start by getting the main section of the dress put together, including those rather interesting sleeve ends. Hopefully, by the time I finish those, the answer to how I'm finishing the neckline will have magically come to me. Okay. Ended up having to remove a bunch of that stay stitching on the sleeves because, oh yeah, you kind of want the end to stretch over your hand now, don't ya? This is what I get for blazing ahead without thinking it through. Then I tried out understitching for the first time. Should I try understitching for the first time? Which required quite a bit of stretching to achieve. I don't know if this is a good idea. This may ruin the whole thing. Oh God. This better work and be worth it. Did I just massively stretch it out? Perhaps not the best time to experiment with new techniques. I mean, do I want to say that's on purpose? Kind of cute. But you know what? I don't know. It's fine.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm saying it's a choice.
I'll call it a choice. Look at these though, they look good. Things are going well so far. Suspiciously well. Y'all, I need to give a shout out to my commitment to pockets of late. I mean, this dress doesn't even go well with pockets. It's an evening gown after all, and the only place I can put the pockets is really low down on the hips. Like stupidly low down, because they can't interfere with the shape of the bat wings. But I did it anyway. I used a non-stretch fabric, I put a strip of interfacing for support, I understitched with much better results this time, I used pinking shears on the edges. These pockets are so nicely done. They're also, as aforementioned, stupidly low. Ah well, I find it amusing. Now 'tis time to attach the sleeves to the armholes. And I can't really remember how I did it yesterday, so I'm basically back to square one.
Let's see what happened.
But somehow,
Y'all,
it worked.
I am genuinely flabbergasted that worked. It's working.
Coffee in hand and wits about me, sort of. I did get knocked in the head last night by a very hard-headed and energetic puppy. I started on the ruffle at last. I'm doing 4 half circles that will be connected and sewn around the hem. I was really worried about them not being long enough, but I forgot to account for how much the weight of that ruffle will stretch the dress downward. So yeah, there's plenty of length. I want to add the horsehair to the hem before I attach it to the dress, and despite my seemingly generous guess of 6 yards when I bought this horsehair, I didn't have enough.
Not enough.
About 1 yard short. So now I have to decide if I go back to Joanne now, or skip ahead to the backless part and go out later. Ugh. Luckily, it was lunchtime, so I had more than one reason to leave the house, which generally makes it easier to do so. And as luck would have it, I found the wider horsehair I originally wanted on this trip. So I'll now be removing the 6 yards I just carefully pinned around the hem and replacing it. Good thing I'm not in a hurry or anything. Sewed twice around that 7-yard hem, and then I just had to try it on and keep adjusting the length from that connection line between the dress and the ruffle like 5 times. Worth it to get it right.
That is so many jumps. So we've reached the point where I've achieved the original dress. Other than binding the neck, it's there, it's done, and I'm pretty darn pleased with it, y'all. It's a lot of fun. So now there's just the question of whether I'm going to commit to phase 2. The backless thing. I am 90% sure it's gonna work and it's gonna look really cool, but it's still scary to ruin something, potentially ruin something that is currently fine. I don't know why I always question this. Of course I'm gonna do it. Of course I'm gonna do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, of course I did it. I started by stay stitching along the entire shape where I intend to cut out the fabric. Then I went ahead and added the neck binding to the front of the neckline, sort of to practice and sort of to procrastinate. There was nothing else to do though, so time for the scary snippage.
Here we go.
Once a huge chunk of fabric was removed from what had been a perfectly fine dress, I pinned on the binding all the way around the gaping hole, sewed it down once, folded it over, and proceeded to add the spiderweb base. Then I double stitched around the entire binding to secure it and had the terrifying task of trying on the dress to see how bad the damage is.
It's a little risque, but it's not too bad.
It still needs the actual webbing, but by then it was quite late and I was quite hungry, so I gave up my hopes of finishing the whole thing that night and set it aside. At last, it was time to figure out that webbing. This would have been much easier on a dress form, but alas, I still haven't committed to one of those. It was a music day for our neighbor. They have these random weekdays where they'll play music outside pretty much all day long, which would be annoying except it's like classic music from the 60s, so I'm actually into it. This process turned out to be way easier than I thought it would be. I was expecting to use sort of embroidery techniques, but in the end, I just used some macrame style knots. Don't ask me which ones, I'm pretty sure I changed like 3 times through the whole thing. The cord I'm using was from the jewelry making section, and I really think it's perfect because it's sturdy, but it also has a lot of texture to it, which makes these knots more likely to stay where I put them and not slide down towards the center. It's looking very spiderwebby. I'm so glad I committed to phase 2 on this dress. It definitely puts the whole thing over the top, in a good way. Why did I blow out all my candles? I'm gonna relight those for ambiance. Okay. Hello. I have to stop filming out here. It's very echoey and you can hear everything that goes by on the street. Not ideal. Okay. Well, that was fun. I don't think I'm fully converted to a Halloween/autumn adorer, but I very much enjoyed making this dress, and I'm very proud of how it turned out. It's very like vampirous, female vampire. It's got a lot of a vampire sort of vibe to it. That is what I was trying to say. It's honestly pretty comfy too, which is, filming this little final product thing was interesting. I think this is the most I've committed for one of those so far. My bra just came half off. Sticky bra decided it was time to stick no more. Fair enough, because I think I've sweated a good amount in there. Pardon me while I just unstick the other side and let it all sit down there. Anyway, yeah, it was interesting. I haven't worn this much makeup in literally years. It was taking me back to those days when I used to do these extreme makeup looks on people for theater and for my senior project and stuff. I do kind of miss it, but at the same time, it's been so long since I've done it that it does just feel weird now. It feels like it's so unnecessary. I also think the last time that I had lipstick this red on would have been the choir concerts we did in college, because we had like black choir dresses, and every time we did a concert, we were required to wear a string of pearls and bright red lipstick. And there were the girls who were like the lipstick police, and if you came in and your lipstick wasn't bright red enough, they'd be like, whoosh, put on this lipstick. Good times. I feel like this was a lot of just me complaining about putting on makeup. You know, the pockets are so silly and so low down on the dress, but at the same time, they are currently holding my mic pack. So is it worth it to throw a pocket in a dress, even if it has to be at like knee height? Kinda. I feel like every project now is just me getting slightly better at putting in pockets. I'm okay with that. Those shoes. So while I was researching images for this dress, I think I had typed in just spiderweb or maybe like spiderweb embroidery to kind of see different options for what I could do with the back. And up in that little bar you get now that has items for sale, like the first thing there was those shoes. And then I noticed that they were from Unique Vintage, which actually like is based in and has a storefront here in LA. And I was like, I think this is a sign. I don't usually spring for kind of useless shoes, but it was just too perfect for this dress. I was feeling a little bit like Moira Rose in the crow thing. Ready to fly away. Oh God, all right, I need to wrap this up. I've been doing this too long now. This was fun. Come back again soon for more fun randomness and winging it. Winging it! Oh, my bra! I'm just gonna Just gonna shake the bra out. Yep, I didn't need that. Hey, if it's called a bat wing sleeve and it looks like a bat wing sleeve,
Ooh, we're gonna get smoky in here.